I was interested in understanding antibiotic resistance, how bacteria become resistant to antibiotics that are used in clinical medicine. I didn't set out to invent genetic engineering. I simply was carrying out a basic research project. And I think these days, often the public doesn't appreciate how important it is to support basic research. But it's basic research that leads to a lot of practical discoveries. Well, I was interested in understanding the mechanisms that bacteria use to acquire resistance to antibiotics. And it was known at the time that I started that bacteria had or carried small circular pieces of DNA called plasmids. And these plasmids picked up genes that coded for enzymes that made them resistant to antibiotics. And I was interested in learning really how plasmids did pick up these genes and how they were transferred and how they reproduced themselves. And in order to do that, in order to understand this, it was necessary to work out methods of taking plasmids out of bacteria and introducing them back into the cells. And once we figured out ways of doing that, it became apparent that if it was possible to link foreign genes to plasmids, it might be possible to use the plasmid replication machinery to reproduce the genes that had been transplanted into new cells by linking them to plasmids. I think that it had an important role in beginning what's called modern biotechnology, because a lot of biotechnology really uses some of the methods that I and my colleague Herb Boyer worked out and reported in the early 1970s. For me, the most exciting consequence of the work we've done is that it's become possible to study genes in ways that it hadn't previously been possible, to isolate genes, to understand how they function in health and disease, to understand how they're structured, to understand how they reproduce themselves. And a lot of the work that's become possible these days was not possible before these methods were worked out. So perhaps the most exciting moment was when we found that it was possible to link genes from different sources together and to reproduce the transplanted genes. Once we had one fragment of DNA that carried resistance to one antibiotic and another piece of DNA that encoded genes that made the cells resistant to another, linked together, we could isolate bacteria that were resistant to both. And when we saw these cells growing on Petri dishes, on plates, it was very exciting. At that time, we were working, the people in my lab were working really day and night, and we wished that the bacteria would grow faster so we could get the results more quickly. I think it's important to choose a problem that excites you. Often scientists, young scientists say, well, how can I decide what to work on to be successful? And I think if the more important question to me is to choose something that stimulates you, that you want to work on day and night, that you want to think about in the shower, that you want to think about when you wake up at night and have problems falling to sleep again. It's important to choose something that you find intellectually and scientifically exciting. I think one of the important messages I have is that it's important for the public to realize that supporting basic science is important. Often people don't think about how important basic research is. There's an interest in curing such and such a disease and doing applied research. But without basic science, there's no research to apply. And I would urge the public in general to think more about how important basic science is in addition to applied research.